You are listening to Oh My Health, There Is Hope podcast.
When your heart is aching and your world is shaking, don't give up. No, don't give up.
Hello and welcome to Oh My Health, There Is Hope, the podcast. I'm your host, Jana Short, and today I'm here with Christine Marie. Christine is a medicine woman who brings healing through poetry, artistry, and I'm going to say this wrong, shamanic healing through the medium of creativity and energy healing. She guides and holds space for others to unearth their true divinity and empowers them to heal themselves. An advocate for positive change around de-stigmatizing mental health, domestic violence, and human disconnection. She urges the need for more self-love, self-reflection, and spiritual connection in order to create more consciousness, loving human evolution. Oh my goodness. So I love your bio and your read-in because I am pro all that. Welcome to the show, Christine.
Oh, thank you so much for having me here. I'm so looking forward to having this conversation with you.
I'm really excited to have you too. You guys, Christine is also in our November issue of Best Holistic Life. Her article is beautiful. You're going to have to catch up and read that as well, because by the time this comes out, it will be out. Christine, the first thing we ask all of our guests to do is to share a story of hope, because I personally believe our stories are powerful. They're like superpowers. And when we share them with others, we share little bits of hope to help them get to the next stage of their journey. So do you want to share your story with us today?
Yes, absolutely. So my story of hope really begins as a young girl. I have been through a lot of childhood trauma, growing up with a father who has been addicted to substances such as alcohol, heroin, things that are pretty self-destructive. And then also growing up with a mother who is diagnosed with schizophrenia. So growing up, I didn't receive the love and the emotional support and the physical nurturing that, most children need in their developmental stages. But since I was a young girl, I always knew I was meant to share my story in order to help other people go through their life. And I had always wanted to write a book about my life story, and I've always wanted to be a healer. When I was 9 years old, I was diagnosed with a rare lung disease that almost took my life. And because of that, that was when I knew that I was meant to hold space for other people in their healing journey. So I went along my journey to pursue my dream of becoming a nurse. And a couple of years into my nursing vocation, I realized this wasn't it, that we are only treating the symptoms of somebody's illness or diagnosis, but we're not really treating the root cause. Like, why are they having these physical, emotional, mental ailments? It comes from something much greater than just a Western diagnosis, right? And then at the same time, I was going on a really big healing journey myself, with healing a lot of my own mental health ailments. And then that's why I ended up seeking out hypnotherapy and other modalities of healing, such as meditation and writing every day, just really coming into shamanism, Reiki, all of the other ways in which that we can heal from the inside out. And my rock bottom happened at this moment because I'd realized how many years I'd been running away from facing my pain, as going through so much childhood trauma, and also how that led into being in an abusive relationship in my years in college. And I didn't realize how I was just, like I said, running away from all of the pain that I wasn't really being brave enough to face until I hit my rock bottom of like, I can either wake up every day feeling the sense of misery, being in my victimhood consciousness of why me, poor me, or I can take sovereignty, take my healing in my own hands, and choose a better direction for myself. And so with that being said, I went into therapy. I started doing all the practices that I had mentioned, and I started to heal from the inside out. And what I've noticed with when we face what we call the shadow self, or the darker parts of ourself, is that we really begin to peel back the layer in which our trauma has kind of formed into. And we begin to peel back those layers, and we really, really begin to understand who it is we truly are, because we're no longer running away from our true selves. And by healing my trauma, by healing myself inwardly, I now have been able to gather wisdom in medicine to heal other people. And that is why I wrote the book, Breaking Free, a self-healing journey. And that is why I am a shamanic Reiki practitioner as we speak.
I love your story because I think so many people, like everybody, can relate to something like this, because we all suffer from trauma, and people sometimes think trauma has to be something horrific that happened in life. And it doesn't have to be. As a child, when most trauma sets into us, we see it as a child. We have no control. We don't have a lot of understanding because we're given little bits of information to process it. And we internalize it completely different. Like people going through divorce, their children are traumatized. They have abandonment issues, even though they have no fault whatsoever. But until you become an adult and you revisit that journey and you realize that you were just a child, you had no control over it. But as an adult, you have the power to make that change within yourself. And one of my favorite things about you, Christine, is you really do talk what I call holistic health, whole health. It's literally spiritual, it's body, it's your mental abilities, like how you're treating yourself in a whole way. And so reaching out past what that ailment might be, there is a root cause, I promise you, and it may be coming from a very unusual place that you didn't even think looking for. You're not going to find it in a blood test. You're not going to find it in an x-ray. It could be something that you're holding inside of you that's causing your body these symptoms and illness. So I love that you do that. When you're working with people and you're helping them find that self-love, self-reflection, and spiritual connection, how does that look for them?
Yeah, that's a beautiful question. So my gifts stem from being able to do a whole body energetic scan of someone that is right in front of me, whether it's remote or in person. And what I can sense is where there are either leakages or blockages in their energetic field that is holding them back from having a sense of peace and harmony and whole life. So when I get to read their energy and their energetic fields, I then can correlate, okay, there's a blockage here. Where does that stem from? I get a download. I get an intuitive knowing. I get a vision. It's all different for somebody depending on who the individual is. And then I take out my medicine bag, because I am a medicine woman, and I have all these tools in which I help that person release or unblock that blockage that is causing them that ailment, whether it's physical, mental, emotional, or spiritual. And then we go through a series of doing the unblockaging, and then lo and behold, everlasting healing occurs. And the more you continue to do this work, the more you see the transformation occur. And then the more you see the transformation occur, you're able to really gather the wisdom that you have. So for me, I'm not someone to heal you. I empower you to heal yourself by giving you the tools to do so, right? And we all have the power. We just need help and guidance and support to really understand what it is that's happening and how we can use these tools to gather wisdom to heal ourselves. And then once we heal ourselves, we then create a ripple effect of healing others, everyone around us, our family lineages, because trauma is generational, right? So your parents' unhealed trauma becomes now my unhealed trauma, and so forth. So we really, really begin to break those unhealthy patterns that the trauma can subconsciously affect. And then once you break those unhealthy patterns, you can start seeing transformational healing occur throughout lifetimes of family trauma. It's really profound. It's really profound.
So two things I want to ask you. The first one is, I think it's super important that you, by the way, I just want to say for sure that I agree with exactly what you said, Christine. Everything you need to heal yourself already exists within yourself. It really, truly does. You just have to be able to recognize it, tap into it, and release it in any way that works for you. Like people release in many different ways. I verbally release. When something's bothering me, it just comes up and out. And here's the thing, once it does, it's gone from me. Sometimes I can't even remember it. Like my husband will say, "Oh, you were so mad when that happened." I'm like, "What? I don't even remember that. What are you talking about?" I literally, it goes away from me. And I know I'm a verbal releaser. And so you'll hear me releasing a lot around the house. I think it comes out and then I move on. But a lot of people release in different ways. And I notice that when they don't, I can see that backup, just like you were talking about. The question I wanted to ask you is, a lot of people, including myself a few years ago, I'm super intuitive. I'm an intuitive, I'm an empath, and I always trust my gut. Having said that, it was very hard for me to understand when I started getting into the holistic lifestyle 10 years ago and meeting people exactly like yourself, Christine, that were helping people release things. I was wondering, how are you doing that? How can you read me online? How can you tap into what's going on with me and connect with me in such an personal way without really knowing me or getting a history like a doctor does? I honestly, to this day, I've had other people explain it, and I'm going to ask you to explain it. I still don't understand it. Having said that, I've not only seen it work, I've experienced it work because I allowed myself to lean into the experience and go with, let's just say, go with the flow. But can you tell me like how you see that happening for people who call you or reach out to you and they're like, how does she do that? Like, she doesn't know me. Is she psychic? What's happening?
Yeah, yeah, that's a really beautiful question. So if you want to use the term, you can use shaman, you can use psychic, you can use medium, channeler, but essentially what I see myself is as a divine vessel between the spiritual world and the physical world. And when you are this vessel or this bridge between both worlds, you have access to both. And so the guidance, the awareness, the clairvoyance that comes to me is from a higher realm. So that is what I have access to. And then that's the wisdom, that's the medicine that I used to gather through like as a channel. And then I can just intuitively read your energy field, and it can come through as a vision, it can come through as a feeling, it can come through as a sensation. There's definitely many gifts that you can have when you are this bridge per se. But if you also want to enhance those gifts, because everyone has these gifts, you just have to continue to build connection, right? It's like a muscle you have to continue to exercise. And so for me, it's like that's a huge part of my practice is like every morning I tune into myself first, and I tune into my inner guidance. And then I also tune into my spiritual team and my connections of like, okay, so I'm open to receiving what is meant to come through for me right now. And then it's the same way as with my client. And sometimes it's really esoteric and very hard, like tangible to explain, especially if you're a logical, analytical thinker. But for me, it's so real and so visceral, and so I guess that's a simpler way of explaining how I can tune into someone's energy field.
I think it's amazing. Even with Reiki instructors, I always felt like you had to be in their presence, but I've literally worked with Reiki instructors online who've moved energy for me, and I feel it happening. Like it is the most insane thing. But for those of you who are like, whatever, let me tell you, if you're a mom, Have you ever laid in bed and your teenager's like 5 minutes late and you pop up like something's not right, what's going on? And you have this instinctive thing to get up, get in your car and go to a certain place, and there your kid is where they're not supposed to be, probably doing something they're not. And they're like, were you spying on me? No, I just had this feeling and I followed through with it. We all have those, but with our kids, because we're responsible for them, we seem to be super in tune to it all the time. Like we wake up thinking about our kids, we go to bed thinking about our kids. We actually all have it, but they call it mother's intuition. It's not mother's intuition. It's just good intuition. And we follow through with it. Don't you think?
Yes, absolutely. Yes, of course. And like when your intuition is speaking to you, the more you answer it, the more it speaks to you more, because you're exercising that muscle. So you're able to see, oh, I answered my intuition right this time. Let me make sure when I had that inkling, the next time I get that feeling, whether it's like a pit in your stomach or, a sensation in your heart, then you do it again. And then you continue to prove to yourself that, oh my gosh, yeah, I have this intuitive ability and I'm going to keep developing it, because it's, of course, obviously very beneficial for you navigating in this world, right? So I think that's really a very beautiful example. So thank you for sharing that.
I love sharing mother's intuition with people because it's the only way that I understood at the beginning, because I always known I was super intuitive and I always knew I was an empath. Although those weren't the words my family used. They would just say, she always knows things in advance, or like, ask her, trust her, she trusts her gut and it always happens. And now that I'm an adult and I'm more into the holistic realm, I know that we all have this beautiful gift. And as we get older, our brain gets in the way and we feel something, but our brain tells us, well, that can't be right, or I don't want that to happen, so that's not going to happen. And it just starts shutting down all the beautiful gifts that we were given to use to help us through our lives journey. When you wrote Breaking Free, a self-healing journey, I want to know kind of a little bit more about that and the direction that people are going to go in who are going to read this, because first of all, the title's beautiful. It is breaking free when you allow yourself to move past hurts and trauma, and you recognize that. Having said that, Christine, a lot of people think that they get through one trauma and their life is in la la land and they never have to work on themselves again. I'm going to tell you it's not true. Our life is a beautiful, long journey, and we are supposed to always, every day, wake up and how can I do better? How can I show up and be more and be better? And so it's a journey. It's not a destination. You are never going to get to a place of perfection. So just stop heading that way. Just start doing better for yourself. When you wrote the book, was that kind of what you had in mind, as people breaking free, learning more about self-exploration, self-healing, and learning more about who they are?
Yeah, absolutely. You said it perfectly. The healing journey is not linear, and that is what I vulnerably express in Breaking Free is the journey of the kind of the up and down, the roller coaster of what it feels like to feel like you have moved past a point of, maybe sitting in a victimhood conscious state, or, healing from an abusive relationship, or, dealing with your own childhood trauma. Like, so there's like, it's like a wave of like, oh, I've healed this part, but now this has shown up. I've healed this part, now this has shown up. And it's just real. It's just real, and it's raw, and it's honest. And what writing that book did for me was literally, I have chills as I'm saying this, it saved my life, because it allowed me to fully express my truth when I never had a safe space to do so. And it all came from my heart. It all came from my heart. And I remember when I first printed the manuscript, and I was looking back at the words I'd written, and I was like, oh my gosh, because it was a 4-year writing journey for this book. And I said, oh my gosh, I don't even feel like I'm this woman that wrote this book anymore, because these words barely resonate with who I am, because I've grown and healed so much. And I started to write the book for myself. Like, it was really selfishly, it was what I did to heal me and what I was going through. And then I was like, wait a second, if this can heal me, imagine how many other people it can heal. And that's where I had to answer the call to really get past the self-doubt, get past, all the limiting beliefs that I was scared of, like just putting myself out there and sharing my story so vulnerably. I had to put all of that aside and continue to remember my why of why I wrote it in the first place, and who I could help for it. And so I was like, okay, I have to share this book. It was a no-brainer. And it was definitely something that I continue to see as a pivotal moment in my own transformational self-healing journey.
That's beautiful. I have not read the book, but I'm going to order it because I definitely want to read it, and I want to share it with people who are looking to find healing in their lives. One of the things you talked about when you were sharing your story of hope was you went from trauma as a child and then in college into a abusive relationship. And I want to point out to a lot of people who are listening to this, because have you ever heard people say she has a bad man picker, or he always picks the wrong women? It's always the same person. And there's a lot of reason for that, because it's not them, it's us. We have to look into ourselves and find out, why are we seeking that kind of love? And as a child in a relationship with your parents, the way you are, that's how you perceive love, is by quick angry, right? Or not showing up or fulfilling what they require, or not required, but told you they were going to do, and excusing that all away because, they're our parents, we love them. And so you move on to men and that kind of love. And until you can recognize that it's not a bad man picker, it's that there's something still inside of you that hasn't been worked through, that you haven't recognized that you are deserving of more, and that isn't the correct lifestyle for you. And when you make those changes, the right people start like flooding in through those doors, and life really does change. When did you make that connection for yourself?
Yeah. It was about 2 years after the relationship ended, and I was just still swimming in like so much turmoil over the breakup, and like why, like just so much shame about being in a relationship that was toxic, and thinking I was in love, and maybe I was, but I was addicted to the chaos. I was addicted to the high highs and the low lows, because that chaos was exactly what I experienced as a child. That unpredictability, there's something about that, like that intense passion, that you're like, oh my gosh, this is it. And then, your lows are like laying in bed for a week with swollen eyelids, sobbing because you're like, how did I get here? What am I doing? And so, yeah, catching that cycle was really, really important for me, because even after beginning that healing journey, I was still attracting emotionally unavailable partners. And that's because that was the vibration I was putting out still. Like, I had to take ownership for what I was being responsible for. And I'm not saying anybody that's been in, an abusive relationship or toxic relationship, like it's their fault, they're to blame. Absolutely not. Like, that other person has unhealed stuff that they have to work through. And, unfortunately, yeah, we can become victims of their unprocessed trauma. And, but again, I had a choice, right? I could still like say, why me, poor me, oh my gosh, like this is what I deserve. Or I could just say, no, like I don't deserve this. I do not deserve this. This is not the life I know I'm supposed to live. And once I began to reclaim that power and that control and that sovereignty of like, I have a choice, I have free will in how I choose to live my life, I started to attract loving partners. And right now I am in the most healthy, loving partnership I've ever been in. And it can make me cry. Like I knew, and I knew this was meant for me somehow, somewhere. But it was almost like as if, like, it was like, oh, finally, like it's like a miracle, almost like, wow, I raised my vibration. I believed in myself and my worth so much that I was able to attract someone who loves me, respects me, and is emotionally intelligent, and is also on his own self-healing journey. And I couldn't ask for anything more. So excuse my tears.
That's okay, because now I got goosebumps. I love it. And you're the whole purpose for the podcast. You're the whole reason for the magazine. It's to let all of you know that, number one, you are not alone. You do not have to go through this journey alone. There's others who've walked that journey already who are there to help you and help lift you, support you, put that mirror in front of your face. You can see like the beauty that's really in there and start moving out into it. Where can people get your book? Where can they find you, Christine?
Yes. Best thing to do is go to my website, christinemarieheals.com. I'm also on Instagram at Christine Marie Heals. I'll just following me there. You sign up for my newsletter via my website. You can see where to get my book. The audiobook is coming out soon, which I'm really excited about. And also you can see my offerings on how to work with me one-on-one, so we can just be a mirror for each other. And I would love to support anyone that is wanting to commit and invest in their own self-healing journey to make this world a better place to live in. So yeah, I hope to connect with anyone further that is needing my guidance.
Christine, your story is beautiful. Thank you so much for being on the show. And you guys, you don't have to be alone. I literally have multiple coaches that I work with. And as I grow, I move into different coaching. But I know every day when I wake up, I can be doing more. I can show up better. And it's a journey, right? So it's not something you should poo-poo on when you have to reach out and ask for help. Everybody needs help at some point. So reach out to Christine, find out more about how she's healing others and helping you break free in a self-healing journey of your own. Thank you so much, Christine. All of her links, by the way, are going to be in the show notes. So if you didn't catch them, you just go click right on them and you're there. So thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to the Oh My Health, There Is Hope podcast. Make sure to visit Jana's website, bestholisticlife.com, where you can subscribe to the show on iTunes, Google Play, or listen there, so you'll never miss an episode. While you're at it, if you found value in the show, we'd appreciate a rating on iTunes, or if you simply tell a friend about the show, that'll help too. Let's change the world together, one health expert at a time. Looking forward to seeing you next time.